Greetings, folks. You are listening to The Coffee Conversation. Please do wake up, South Africa. My name is Aphiwe Nqevu, the other side of the story. How are you, Dean?
Fine. One day I'm going to learn how to say your surname. My name is Dean Heystek, and I'm just a guy who gives a damn. And we've kind of gone through black entitlement and white privilege. I want to try and somehow bring the relevance and truth of both of those and expose it in how it's holding us back in society. I'm going to read something to you. While I was asleep again, waking up 2 in the morning, this is stuff that came to me and it shattered me. But how many whites are murdered and attacked, hijacked, robbed by blacks? All but a few. How many blacks are murdered and hijacked, robbed, attacked by whites? None but a few. Is that because whites are better than blacks? Not at all. Just look at our history. Consider that. In the past, were blacks included in government, in positions of power, in relevance in the country, or even acknowledged as equal or of value in society? Were blacks given a fair, equal status in rights and law? Certainly not. Does that tell us that blacks are better than white people? Not at all. Just look at our present. That's how the statement came to me. We've got the right to life, family, education. Those things are from the children, and then the right to provide as adults. That statement I struggled even to write. But there's such a relevance and truth in it that reveals that we all, black or white, we've got red blood. And what it says to me is that it doesn't matter in our human condition, we are just as flawed, just as evil, just as potentially good, because what we manifest is actually a human condition.
Human nature, I agree, is the same. We all want the same things, but they just look differently. The void in the heart of each and every human being is the same, but we go about filling that void differently. So I agree, humanly speaking, we are all fundamentally the same.
How does this manifest in society today? There is a problem when you walk through a white area as a stranger, being a black man. There is, in the narrative in society, there is a problem with the people who live in that area, mostly white, coming up to you as a stranger in the area and saying, "What are you doing here?"
I'll tell you one story. I saw an apartment on George Herald. And I was single at that time. It was a bachelor. It looked attractive. I was happy. I was thinking, let me get there as soon as possible. And so I got on the taxi. I came up to town. I walked to the place, the area. Finally, I found the area. And so I was looking for the street, going up and down. And I saw this gentleman. He was in his yard, just minding his business with his kids. He had a nice BMW that was standing outside.
White guy.
A white guy in this white area, if there is such a thing as a white area. And so he got into his car after I've passed. I think I passed his yard twice out of being lost, because I kept on referring on the GPS that this place must be here, but I keep on missing it. And so when I passed the second time, he got on his car and he got out and he followed me. And so whichever corner I turned, he followed me. And then just when I saw the house number that I was going to, he drove closely to me. He says, "Can I help you with anything?" Now I was dumbstruck because I was surprised. Are you the guy who help people on the streets here or what? Why do you want to help? And I know his house. I saw where he was. And I saw that car, so I know where he lives. I'm not approaching his house. And says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Sir, I'm looking for a flat to stay. Can you help me?" He says, "Well, no. I said, "But this lady can. Can I go in now?" And so he turned around. he left. That was offensive. That was offensive because he saw me as a threat. He saw
Because
me as
you're
a
black?
threat. Because I'm black and I'm in that area that is perceived to be a white area. And
I would understand exactly why he would do something like that.
why?
Because not most black people are criminals, but most criminals are black.
But you've just said the same thing, just differently.
No, I'm not. If you've got 100 100 people, and they're all black, okay? And out of them, they've got 100 people, and 50 are white, 50 are black, let's say. And you've got 10 criminals. You might find one of them are white, and 9 of them are black. So it's not that all the blacks are criminals, but most of the criminals are black. I'm about to get shot. I'm about to get...
Are you telling me that?
Yes.
Are you telling me that so that I understand why I should be treated like that?
No, not why you should be treated like that. Why you are treated like that.
Oh.
It's a reputation thing. I'm not saying he should treat you like that. I think what we've got to try and find is a way that should be dealt with. The fact of the matter is, as a white individual, way before the new South Africa, even in the old South Africa, most of the crime that was committed against white people was by black people. Not all black people committed crimes against us, but all the crimes, predominantly in terms of violent, random crimes, were committed against white people by black people. It still happens today. That's why this statement here, how many whites are murdered, attacked, hijacked, robbed by blacks? All but a few. How many blacks are murdered and attacked, hijacked, robbed by whites? None but a few. Now, I'm excluding from that statement that most of the crime towards blacks also happens by blacks. And this is not an accusation against blacks to say that's why they're so terrible. That's why I qualified it to say that it's not because whites are better than blacks. Because whites have got the privilege. I wasn't born into a house where I was beaten up because there wasn't a father and we didn't have money. And had I been, I would be the same. I would be probably a worse criminal than most. I would probably be one of the worst criminals, knowing my nature as a human, how monstrous I can be. I certainly don't blame the black people for being the criminals because they were the ones who were oppressed, left out of opportunity, and because of that, with the relative poverty, and they saw these things that they couldn't aspire to, that they would steal it. I would do the same.
I think we should never justify a criminal. I think a criminal will always have to be blamed for his criminality.
Yeah.
But I want to visit again and pick more on the scenario here.
Yeah.
How am I expected to handle that? When a black man is approached by a white person who's suspecting. I mean, I just pointed one incident.
Yeah.
I don't want to moan over incidents of racism. Coffee shop. I don't know if I've told you this already. Sitting in the coffee shop, enjoying my coffee, minding my business on my laptop. Here comes a man. He's asking me to make him coffee because I'm black. Because he doesn't see the barista. He's saying, why are you sitting there? When am I going to get my coffee? How am I supposed to deal with that?
What a moron, eh?
You know, this is something, I'm telling you something that most black people can tell.
Yeah.
You walk into a store, at the risk of mentioning people's shops. Let's say Checkers. It has not happened to me, but I'm just saying hypothetically. Whatever department section you are in, it's common that a black person will be approached by a white person who's wondering where to find an item.
Yeah.
Can you help me here? Why? Why must I help you? Am I here to help people? Am I wearing a Checkers thing or what?
Yeah.
So now advise me, how should me as a black man, I almost said me as a white man, how should me as a black man,
to you.
how must I handle that when it happens?
Nobody knows. Because we've never had that conversation. So, hey, let's have that conversation. Firstly, I want to consider that when the guy followed you around the neighborhood, being who you are, you weren't there for wrong reasons. The shame is not yours, it's his. Don't carry his shame. Shame on him. I think the way you handled it was brilliant. You stood up to him in a fair, honest, humble way, and you said, Maybe you can help me. Well, she can. I think that was brilliant. I don't have that intuition. I would have probably lost my temper.
I'm amazing, you know.
You are pretty amazing. I mean, yeah. Okay. No, I don't know if we know how to handle this because you've never had this conversation. The reality is that the expectation when you see a black person is one of nervousness, given the reputation that most of the crime that we suffer is by black people. Now, I'm not saying that that justifies our bad behavior, but it might justify our reservation in dealing. We have to learn how to deal with it responsibly. Let me just, sorry, 1 second. The first example, I don't know how the guy handled it exactly. He possibly should have just asked you openly. And maybe we can get there as South Africans, that blacks acknowledge that whites are scared of them for certain reasons and feel okay with that. And it's not your shame if you're not the guilty. And that whites can go, let me just go and ask the guy what he wants and be perfectly comfortable with it and try and be respectful and honest. I don't know. That's a conversation we still have to. The second incident where you're sitting there and you're on your computer and the guy comes, you don't have to handle that. He's just an arsehole. Honestly, it's not your shame.
No, I never answered that guy. I mean, the couple that was sitting next to me, they answered him. They said, well, actually, we found him here and the barista is in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And he didn't even wait for his coffee. He left.
You know, I've got situations which you heard of where a guy will walk into a restaurant and you'll go, I don't want to be served by him because he's black. That's not the black person's shame. That's the white person's shame. Shame on him. It's diabolical to, in this day and age, still have that prejudice to the extent that you... And that's just racism.
Tell them, Dean. Tell them.
Yeah, tell you. You guys who do that. You guys who have workers who you say you're not here to think, you're here to work, and then moan at them for not accepting responsibility. You're the problem, not them. You need to empower those people by giving them authority and responsibility based on their competence and reward them for it. Stop being a bunch of bloody morons, because we have a talent pool. The talent pool used to be 6 million white people. And we achieved so much in this country with just from the talent pool of 6 million white people. We've now got 60 million people to draw from. Can you imagine?
The others were dams, you know, that were not paid attention.
They were dams that we weren't, but now these dams are available to the whole country. This is actually the opportunity. We've got 60 million people to draw talent from. We could be the best country in the world. If we allow the talent that exists with the white people, the competence that exists with the white people, the privilege that is there, we can recognize that privilege and we can go, oh, we've got something to offer the rest of South Africans. And the other South Africans, if they can stop listening to these idiotic politicians who want us to hate each other because it fuels the fire of their power, and they're very happy to rule over the ashes that they have, of the people that they have destroyed, even their own people. If we can ignore those half-man, half-biscuit moron ideologists, ideologues.
Take it easy.
And actually, I know. Don't break, Dean. Okay, hold on. Sip of water. Okay. That's coffee, apparently.
Dean, in the spirit of repairing the relationship between black and white.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody can see that the relationship is pretty damaged.
Yeah.
All around the world. In the spirit of repairing that, would it be fair to acknowledge, or that we should acknowledge, what we've done to each other and what we've created, the monsters we've created out of each other? Is that even something that is conceivable?
Conceivable. If it's not, we have to make it, because I think it's the only way we can get past it and that's why I think me understanding and realizing the position of privilege, being a white person and acknowledging that, not to abuse it and recognize it, is going, we've taken advantage. We've stepped back. We've ignored the fact that we have an important role to play, and we've stepped back and then blamed it on the government for pushing us out, instead of recognizing that we have these things and we've abused it. And then offer that to the black people and say, I'm sorry.
The question I want to ask you, would it be fair, as many of the blacks have done, to say, I am the criminal that I am today because you were a criminal that you were to me then? And they would even continue to say, stop moaning about me just picking your wallet while you took the mine. Stop moaning about me breaking your window of a car while you took my identity.
Reduced me to less than human.
You reduced me to less than nothing. Now that I'm an animal that's busy growling and getting ready to devour you. You don't recognize that you've actually been nesting this beast. This is a beast you've created.
Yeah, you are Dr. Frankenstein. Yeah,
You've created the monster.
We've created the monster. Yeah.
And then again, to be fair, because I said this.
Because you got to give the other side of the story.
Yeah, because I said this. White people are what they are today because of the perhaps unexpected monster that came out of a black man that they created because of what a monster it is now.
There's offense on both sides. You know, there's certainly, it shocks a lot of black people to realize and understand that as much as you have reason to hate white people have very good reason to hate you. Now, I'm not saying we should hate, but we've all got reason to. You know, we've got reason to do everything, but none of that's productive. None of that helps.
That is productive.
None of that's supportive. That's only productive, helpful, and supportive to the politicians who want to take power. That's the only ones who benefit from it, because the people do not. The people will only benefit when we acknowledge, I have good reason to hate you as a white person, but forgive me for what I've done. You know, there's this scripture that says, when you go to somebody and you make right with them, you heap the coals on their head. And a lot of people interpret that by saying, you know, when somebody's done something wrong to you, go to them and say, oh, I forgive you. Now, that would anger the hell out of me too. Heaping coals on the head is not taking coals and putting them on the head and making them angry. It's heaping the coals which are on the head and taking them off by not saying I forgive you, but saying, please forgive me that there's been tension. You know, a guy offended me and he did horrible stuff to me. And I could have gone to him and said, oh, you know what? I forgive you. I'm so righteous. I forgive you. But I realized that if I did that, it's going to make him even more angry. I'm doing it in spite. What I did is I went to him and I said, listen, we've got an argument. If I've done something to upset you, please forgive me. And it broke the tension.
I'll tell you a story. Back at home, we were burying my mother, and elders and all that, they came together and all that. And there were a lot of offenses because they wanted to do things their way and I wanted to do things my way. And so we offended each other there, but they imposed the most offense on me. And when the funeral was over, I went to him. I said, I'm sorry for anything that may have sounded disrespectful, for any disrespect that you feel that I gave to you. And he looked at me and he said, no, I don't forgive you. But I walked away peaceful, knowing that I had revealed my heart to him, that I hold no offense no longer. That was my objective. To show him that I'm no longer offended. I've gone past that. And in a way, I feel that blacks do have a responsibility to communicate their forgiveness towards white people, because white people, they constantly think that they have to ask for that forgiveness, while there is no one saying, we forgive you.
The power that lies in the hands of the black people to create healing in South Africa is immense. Actually, most of the power lies there. If you think about someone who's offended, and I'm not saying they've taken offense, but somebody, I've hurt you. The power that you have to bring healing in the situation which is required, otherwise South Africa is going to get destroyed, is actually all with you. The power is actually all in the hands of the black people. Now they're losing power to heal in South Africa, because for the last 26 years, there hasn't been this engagement to do so. And now they're actually creating offense as well. So it's like, I've hurt you, now you're hurting me. And you're nullifying the power of forgiveness in order to heal. Can you imagine if in your ministry, mostly black and colored people went to a white congregation and said, can we join you in the service? And then announced, listen, we just want to say that we're really sorry for the damage that's been caused from our side of the past. Is it just for you to do that? Probably not just. But will it create healing? And how much power is there is what's actually more relevant. Now, it's also that the whites could come to the black people and say, forgive us for what we've done if I've offended you. But there won't be the same power, because maybe the blacks will respond in the same way that that man responded to you. But as the offended, that's where the power actually lies.
The power lies with the offended, not taking offense, rather forgiving.
Correct. Now, I mean, that's why I say that there's an aspect of the power that the black people have had for the last 26 years is being lost, because now whites are greatly offended by so many things that, and I'm not saying they should take offense, but there's a lot of things that are offensive. We're excluded from aspects of the government, participating in certain businesses. When the leaders and the politicians say our people, they're not talking about white people, they're talking about the black people. I don't even know if they're talking about the colored people. They seem to be excluding them as well. It's just, and who are the people? Well, anybody who agrees with them. And the whites are not, certainly, so we're now getting offended. And it's just in a way.
Is that how you feel? Or is that something that has been communicated, that our people is not white people?
No, it's certainly, there's been rhetoric around it as well. There's definitely, I mean, you know, whites must be driven to the sea. This is said by politicians, okay? Whites don't ever think of the worst thing that ever happened is that white people got onto this continent. This is what the politicians are saying.
I mean, whites can swim. I think they can survive.
Yeah, we don't call you non-swimmers for nothing. Eh? How many black swimmers do you see in the Olympics?
Exactly.
But, I mean, that's the whole thing. But the power of the forgiveness is from the offended, not the offender. Although there is power from the offender in forgiveness, because it creates a platform, it doesn't have to be received. And at the moment, the blacks have the power. And I'm not talking about the power of the government. They're not supposed to be in power. They're supposed to be serving the people. And I think they're doing it really, really badly. At the moment, I see black people asking for an apology only. In general, not realizing that the power in their hands is not to ask for an apology, but to offer one. And that'll bring freedom. That'll bring, from this fight that we're in, we can then cooperate and build this place together. And we need to, because whether you like it or not, you can't claim oppression. We've suffered. We haven't got an education. We don't know these things because you've oppressed us, and at the same time say that we are competent on our own to achieve this. We need each other.
We need each other. I think we will munch on this again when we meet on this platform. For now, let's let it rest.
You can close first this time.
My name is Aphiwe Nqevu, the other side of the story.
And I'm Dean Heystek, just a guy who gives a damn.